Coming up on American Medicine Today, the lasting effects of harmful over-the-counter prescriptions are still taking a devastating toll on anyone associated with them. Heather McCarthy shares a story of her son's death and what we can learn from the drugs he was given. Then, Clarence was a wounded veteran who suffered from severe back pain. After attempting treatment through the VA, he finally found the Bonati Spine Institute and is now back to living his active lifestyle. Finally, Dr. Bonati discusses the continued lasting effects of the Affordable Health Care Act, also known as Obamacare. How has it impacted your current health care, and when will these effects finally wear off? Find out coming up on American Medicine Today.
Featuring cutting-edge science and medical innovation, touching personal stories of recovery from pain, along with political, social, and healthcare issues plaguing our nation. This is American Medicine Today, brought to you by the Bonati Spine Institute and Alfred Bonati, MD.
Welcome to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Bonati alongside Ethan Euchre and world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. Alfred Bonati. So a new report filed with the FDA has linked a growing number of suicide deaths to two different antibiotics used to treat serious infections. Joining us to discuss is Heather McCarthy, an Indiana-based attorney whose son Shay died after taking the Johnson & Johnson drug Levaquin. Thank you for being with us, Heather.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us, Heather, a little bit about your son Shay? He was a young Purdue University student, and how did he actually end up being given Levaquin?
Yeah, and if I could just kind of explain too, in regard to the suicide issue, that's the topic today. But my son, he was a sophomore at Purdue University. He was studying in the atmospheric science program, very renowned program. NASA astronauts go through that program. Very creative young man. Had his whole life since a child issues with nasal congestion. So that summer, we decided we were going to get him surgery for a deviated septum. The Levaquin that he was given, which is a fluoroquinolone, very powerful antibiotic, but it was given as a prophylactic or a preventative measure so that he would not get an infection, prior or after the surgery. He was given a huge supply, 750 milligrams a day for 2 courses. The first was 21 days. That's when he stopped taking it. But immediately while taking it, after the surgery, he was experiencing a lot of confusion and stuff. But, it's hard as a patient, especially when you're given something as a preventative measure, to know. But it became clear afterwards that he was very sure that this drug had caused him a multitude of problems. Unfortunately, in our case, oftentimes they end up in the mental health system. So rather than your provider listening to you, when you tell them, hey, look, I think this drug is doing something to me, you're not given credibility. And then all of a sudden, instead of an adverse drug effect, it becomes an underlying health issue. And oftentimes that's a mental health issue.
You said that your son stopped after the first, 21-day supply of Levaquin. Now, is that because the supply ran out, or there were supposed to be more and he just decided this is making me feel weird, I'm not taking this anymore?
That is very rare. Victims of this have issues after just being given one pill for, let's say, a urinary tract infection. These are very strong antibiotics, and they really shouldn't be used for these type of issues. You know what I mean? Especially as a prophylactic. If you read the labeling for children, those under 18, it's for anthrax exposure and the plague are the uses for this drug. This was clearly an attempt, I believe, by industry to really broaden the use of a drug that should only be used in specific dire circumstances. And in any circumstance, the patient should be given the risk of these drugs, and they are not. And that's where the problem lies. So we're just trying to raise awareness of these drugs. We have a website, www.knowrisks.org, and really focusing on some of the dangers of not doing your own research and not making sure that when you are given a drug, you are provided the risk and the benefits so you can make your own decision as to whether that drug should be part of your health regimen or not.
What is informed consent? Because you hear this word being thrown around all the time with Levaquin.
Mm-hmm. Well, informed consent to me would mean, first of all, that I have a relationship with my doctor. Because if I don't have that, I'm never going to get informed consent. And that means taking the time to not only explain the treatment or the procedure that I'm going to be, receiving, but also the risk and the benefits. So I can do some of my own research to see if those benefits outweigh the potential risk. And I don't think anyone especially needed a preventative drug or has a cold or a UTI would be willing to take the risks that are associated with this class of drugs.
Correct.
And unfortunately, we're just trusting our doctors, and that's a normal thing to do. And we think this is just an antibiotic, and we don't understand the host of problems that goes with it. And I think that is the danger here, and that is my mission to try to raise awareness of this.
Are doctors being incentivized to prescribe this medication to their patients?
It's interesting how industry kind of, how that works. We know during this time frame, especially when my son was given the drug, 2011 to 2015, there was many, many warnings reporting to the FDA, the adverse event reporting, numerous reports. And we know those are undercounted because those are reported by doctors and by patients who have adverse effects. But we also know at that time, and I know you've had an opportunity to talk to a colleague of mine, Dr. Martin, there's been a lot of information that's come out that at that time, her husband, in fact, had a hedge fund that he was the CEO of, this Renaissance Technologies, that had numerous stock in these Johnson & Johnson. That's who made the drug at the time. They have a different name now. People were benefiting off these drugs being broadly used. Yes. There's benefits in the stock market. There's benefits to them being used in this broad manner, which puts a lot of patients at risk. We always hear adverse effects are rare. They're rare if a medication is used what it's supposed to be used for, not a cold or a preventative measure to take such a risk with our health and our well-being.
Where is the FDA? Because the FDA is supposed to be monitoring these drugs to make sure that it causes no harm to the people taking them.
It sure does. But when you read about things like Dr. Martin has written about, the warning labels are, they've increased. In 2016, there was a label change. There was recently a new one. But when you really start looking at it, it really just pulls the veil back. These warnings could have been on much earlier.
Sure.
These adverse effects have been going on for, 20 years. The time it takes to really get the push to make a labeling change, it's hard for people like me who have lost a family member because of this, not to see how medicines incentivize. We are not getting the best treatments. We're getting the most profitable. And the result of that is stories like mine. And I just think it's so important that these stories are heard, because a lot of the mainstream media, it's very hard. And I commend you for having me on today. It's just very hard to get these stories out. And it could save lives.
We've heard not only is it creating suicide problems, but just taking one dose, as you had mentioned, it causes tendon problems where the tendon can snap. It causes muscular problems. And it's a lifetime from one dose, one time in your life taking this.
It causes mitochondrial damage, and you have these victims who have experienced these harms. So much research could be going on right now. My son was aware of what was going on in his body. He wanted to be well. All he wanted to do was get back on his life and go to school. So here he is seeing, mental health professionals. Yes. What happens in this country? How does industry and physicians push this is instead of looking at the underlying issue, they mask it. So what do they mask it with? An even more toxic drug. A benzodiazepine, here, take this for your anxiety.
Yes.
Well, when that anxiety is coming from an adverse drug reaction, you are adding fuel to the fire. That's why it's hard to really look at some of the recent suicides. I know there was recently one with Levaquin in Florida, because a lot of times these patients are given so many other drugs because no doctors believe them. So they think they have these other problems, and they're taking someone who's already having a toxic reaction and layering other drugs on top of that. And that is just, it's not appropriate. I had almost a decade-long lawsuit in my son's case to get some justice from the doctors who refused to listen to him. It was successful. And that was just came to a close this past fall. But it's just amazing. Just like, we had cameramen and depositions. One of them stayed after because he had taken this drug and had a lot of the problems and was treated for them and never connected the dots. Wow. And how much longer are people suffering because they don't even know the source of the illness? They think it's some other underlying issue. And, that's why it's just so important that this whole idea of this risk-benefit analysis has an individual, you can trust your health care provider, but trust yourself also. Trust your family members.
Absolutely.
And listen to them because all too often that doesn't happen. And the result, it could be death or a lifetime of illness. That's just completely unnecessary.
Correct. You have to be your own best advocate. Thank you so much, Heather McCarthy, for joining us on the program to warn us about suicides linked to Levaquin.
Thank you.
Make sure you stay tuned. We'll have a story of recovery after the break. Don't be screwed by lesser spine institutes who bait you with minimally invasive procedures, then switch to screws, rods, disc replacements, and hardware. At Bonati, no metal hardware fusions are ever used. Bonati invented the precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect 98.75% patient satisfaction. Over half our patients have suffered from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
My name is Clarence Rogers, and I was in the United States Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years, and I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, California, and MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida. So I deployed to Afghanistan in 2010. I was a part of a detachment group called the Retrograde, which is basically take all the gear that was obsolete and that wasn't needed, ship it back to the States. So that took a lot of hours of work and just early mornings, late nights, and there's just constant pressure on my back. So every little thing I was doing was putting a lot of tension on my back. So as the years go by, it started getting worse and worse. And then one day we were PTing, physical training, and we were doing some up downs and some box jumps, and I landed wrong. Landed and pretty much destroyed my back, the lower part of my back. A couple weeks later, I couldn't walk. My left leg completely was non-mobile. My back was hurting. My cousin had to help me up out of bed. It was excruciating pain. With the back injury, I wasn't able to basically finish my physical fitness test. So when I couldn't do that, they seen that there was a problem, and they pretty much was like, hey, there's nothing we could do. You might as well just try to get out. So I did. It was a huge letdown because I was in limbo picking up sergeant. I'm a black belt Marine Corps martial arts instructor, and I was doing pretty good in my career. To know that I could do better and be pretty much forced out because of my back, it was definitely hard to take. It sucked because the weeks boiling up to when it actually hit the fan, basically when I couldn't walk and I had to have my cousin pick me up out of bed, what's wrong with you? It sucked. I couldn't go jet skiing, and I love jet skiing. Couldn't go dirt biking. Couldn't go on a roller coaster if I wanted to. Then just sitting down, like how I'm sitting down right now, it hurt. Walking hurt. Just every little bit of thing that I was doing, something would hurt. It would trigger some type of pain.
Clarence was able to transition back to civilian life despite his injured back, thanks to support from his friends and family.
A lot of family support, basically family, and then my MMA coach, Mr. Amir, basically them batting for me and helping me out when I needed the help. That's basically what got me through, because when you're in the military, you get waited on hand and foot. You don't have to worry about your paycheck, nowhere to stay. You don't have to worry about your clothing, anything, because you're given all of that. So coming out of the military and making that transition, it was pretty difficult. But like I said, with that family support and the support of my coach, I'm doing pretty well now.
Like many veterans, Clarence went to the VA for help. They offered him a series of conservative treatments that didn't solve the underlying cause of his pain.
The VA was telling me, oh yeah, we'll give you steroid back shots, or, if the pain goes away, then let us know.
When his pain didn't improve, he started asking around about someone that could help. His coach suggested that he visit the Bonati Spine Institute. That was about an hour-long drive from the gym where Clarence trained.
I was complaining to Mr. Amir, letting him know, hey, I just got out the military, my back's a little messed up, but I still want to fight for you. He's like, all right, well, just come on in and I'll get you ready. So just preparing to fight, my back was still hurting. So he took me to Bonati. He was like, hey, look, you could go to this guy, he's really good and he'll help your back. So I was like, okay. And I drove there with a family member, and it wasn't hard to find at all. It's a gigantic institute. They have their MRI department, X-ray department, the whole nine. So they have everything you need. On the spot, right after my MRI, he was able to tell exactly what was wrong with my back.
The Bonati Spine Institute is different from other spine facilities because they offer on-campus imaging services that provide results for the surgeons to review with patients the same day. This is why surgical guests at Bonati regularly travel long distances to receive the exclusive Bonati spine procedures. They are seen, treated, and recovering faster than anywhere else.
And he explained to me exactly what was wrong with my back with the L3, the L5, being that my disc was bulged and I had a herniated disc and the whole nine. Dr. Maloney was like, no, this is serious. Like, if you wait on this any longer and you actually get hurt, you could probably go paralyzed, like from the waist down. It could really be that bad. So I took that into accountability and I got it done. I got the work done.
The exclusive Bonati spine procedures are performed using conscious IV sedation, where the patient remains awake and communicating with their surgeon to ensure their pain is eliminated. Clarence, like most Bonati Spine Institute patients, was surprised at how quickly he was able to resume his normal daily life.
I was back in the gym 6 days later. 6 days after surgery, I was back in the gym, slowly but surely working my way back to fighting, back to basically 100% of fighting, So 6 days, and everybody was in awe. Like, didn't you just get out of surgery? I'm like, yeah, I feel great. And like, okay, let's see how you do. And I was rolling with everybody, and I'm in the advanced class. So that sounds a lot right there. I couldn't believe in myself. Now I'm back to 100%, and I'm getting ready for a fight within the next 2 to 3 weeks. I would tell Dr. Bonati, thank you so much. I honestly didn't know if I would be able to fight again or run or anything, and now I am. So my hat's off to you, and I thank you. I feel reborn, basically. I feel like born again, because like with all the problems, like I said, it was years time that it took for my back to actually fail, for it actually all to like for it actually get bad. So with all that happening, and then going from that years of just my back, I can't do this, to hey, I'm back in the gym, hey, let's go throw some kicks, some roundhouse kicks, I can fight, let's go 5 minutes if you want to. It feels great. It's the best feeling I've ever had.
Clarence recommends people suffering with neck or back pain do whatever it takes to visit the Bonati Spine Institute.
Fly, drive, take a bus, take a train, whatever you could do to come get some help, go to Dr. Bonati. I see me going hopefully professional. Hopefully, I don't want to, toot my own horn, but I definitely see myself going professional and doing some MMA fights, doing some kickboxing matches, the whole nine, just keeping myself strong and athletic the whole time, whether I become a famous fighter or just somebody who fights and become an instructor. Either way, I see myself being a fighter. To get it done and to know basically that I could still be in the chair, sitting in a wheelchair or something, it's great. It's a great feeling. I'm back to life. There you go. I'm back to life.
Bonati was the one that helped me completely. Thank you for giving my career back to me.
He said, don't tell me, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with you and tell me if I'm correct. And so he did.
The good news this time is it was not open back surgery.
This scar is this big.
He was a doctor that didn't want to fillet my back open like a fish.
During the whole operation, I was awake. I was talking to the doctor. I saw the operation in the monitor.
He's not really cutting muscles, he's just pushing them away.
Immediately after the procedure, I was able to stand straight again, and I had zero pain.
Well, he did the surgery on the left side, and a week later, I was back in the gym.
Don't wait until you're on that downward slide where you can't even function anymore. Just don't wait. Just get it done.
When somebody can help you to where you can recover and where you can do the things that you were able to do before, you just become thankful.
I can't thank the Bonati Institute enough for giving me my life back.
It just opens up doors that you thought were closed.
I love you, Doc.
Welcome back to American Medicine Today. We're going to talk about Obamacare. It's one of our favorite topics.
Obamacare is a disaster that is going to last for many, many years, probably generations, before it's being corrected, and Americans are going to suffer the consequence of that.
Why do you think it has taken so long to do anything about it?
Because like everything that a socialistic community with a tremendous amount of an input of communism, they want to control population.
Yes.
And to control population is part of the agenda. And then they apply any force possible to don't lose something that they can control people.
Okay.
And the healthcare is one of the elements control people. We saw it last year.
Yes.
Okay, when governors of the blue states, they decided to practically destroy the economy, and they did it using healthcare.
Yes.
And the people suffer not only using fake masks and no direction, and practically the business lost a lot of millions.
Yes.
Well, all this thing is just typical of a communistic society who wants to control people.
Well, how did they do that with Obamacare?
Obamacare is a fraud, and they knew that. Obama is probably the most dangerous and the worst president the United States ever had. He used the advantage of his race to be able to be elected.
Okay.
He was not prepared to do that, but because was a black man with the possibilities to get in the American presidency, was supported by everybody. When they talk about race, makes me laugh to see that you talk about race, half of the votes or more are coming from white people to elect this individual.
Correct.
The problem is they did because of the kindness of the American population. And the major trouble with that is they were so naive and so nice, they never saw that this man was indoctrinated by his father with Marxist type of an intrusion on his mind.
Right.
Major problem with Obamacare is not that they want to have good health care for Americans.
Sure.
Is they want to control the health care, because controlling the health care is one of the issues in socialism to maintain control of the population. The Obamacare has a lot of failures. The failures that Obamacare was initially, they thought that they are going to be able to get millions of people that they are going to flock to become members of the insurance.
Yes.
Well, didn't happen. They were thinking that they would have, I don't recall well, but I think there was around 20 to 30 million that they were trying to be
signed
part of the insurance.
Sure.
And they only got around 9 million. And the 9 million was a real flock, because the majority were non-insurable people, or there were people who didn't want insurance. There were young people, the majority, and the other one was the usual takers of every society, the ones that they want to do the free things, they don't want to work. Well, those ones were the ones that they sign out.
Sure.
So the value of the insurance right there
collapsed.
Doctors were prudent in being, receive this type of population because the first than anything, they didn't have clear insurance. The insurance were not really already performing. They didn't know if they were going to be paid or not. They need to have and pay their people.
Correct.
And they need to pay payrolls.
Yes.
And it's a business part, not only medicine. And if you have something that is not going to pay you, then you have a problem. So they lost doctors, and they lost also plans. When they lost doctors, they didn't have enough doctors for the plans that they said that they are going to have.
Correct.
In some states, they have 24 plans, and then they only become active 4 plans.
Right. So what does that mean in the end? It means you have a card that's completely useless no matter where you go.
You got it. Exactly. That was just to have a little piece of plastic to say you have insurance, but you didn't have anybody to serve you. So they start to lose the plans. The other big problem is to try to compensate that. The premiums were very high.
Yes.
So that was a problem. The other problem is that they have high deductibles. So the premiums were bad, the high deductibles were bad, and the cost of the program for around from the 2014 to the 2022, we are paying $470 billion to support this program. The question is, why, like you said in the beginning, why this program is still alive? It's alive just because the socialist people keep fighting for a program, not for the healthcare, because they want the control of people.
So you lost your doctor, you lost the plans you love, you threw people that loved their insurance out of the game, you screwed over everybody, and you didn't put $2,500 back in most families' pockets, but you quadrupled their premiums, and you made it so outlandish nobody can afford healthcare anymore. Yay! Thank you, Obama. Thank you. Well, we'll tackle this discussion in future episodes of American Medicine Today, seen every Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, contact us at the number below. You can tweet at Dr. Bonatti using hashtag American Medicine Today or hashtag AMT. We would like to hear from you.